That was something that had never happened in my life either, and I didn't even know this at the time, and it was the most terrifying thing that I think anybody could ever go through.
From being shot by a truck driver to scaring horses to death, the Michigan Dogman attacks again, and this time there is proof. Let's delve in.
My name is Joe. I'm a 6-year Army veteran, and I am a truck driver at this point in my life. I'm 59, and I have a story that I think needs to get out and is important.
Mythical monsters have fascinated the public for centuries. Tales of these cryptids have spread since the days of the Kraken, and reports of creatures like Bigfoot still surface to this day. However, not many are familiar with the Michigan Dogman, except for those who've reportedly heard its eerie, human-like scream, or those who have seen the creature face to face. Described as a bipedal creature with the head of a dog and the body of a man, the Dogman cryptid supposedly roams the northern Michigan wilderness, appearing every 10 years on years ending with 7. The Dogman was allegedly first spotted by a pair of lumberjacks in the late 19th century. Since then, Dogman sightings have seemingly only increased. The Michigan truck driver incident. In 2022, a Michigan truck driver traveling through the Manistee National Forest came face to face with a creature out of urban legend, the Michigan Dogman. That night would change his life forever. Joe Barger, a 6-year Army veteran and experienced trucker, shared his story in a YouTube interview. Barger said he wasn't trying to convince anyone, but wanted to share his experience in case others ever encountered the Dogman themselves.
Brilliant white, 3-inch long fangs, bottom and top, at least maybe 3.5 or so. Pure black, pointed ears. It had yellow eyes.
Even if you don't believe me, it might be something you can draw on if it happens to you, he said. He felt it was important for people in Michigan to know what he saw. Barger's journey began as a routine haul, transporting a 43,000-pound load of paper from a mill in northern Michigan. It was a typical route for him, and until that night, he had never even heard of the Dogman. What happened next would all unfold in just 15 to 20 seconds, but those few moments felt like a lifetime. I would swear, as a Christian on a Bible, that this is 100% truth, Barger said during the interview, emphasizing the reality of his story.
And it's 100% factual, true, and I would swear, as a Christian, on a Bible, that this is all 100% factual truth.
Barger noticed an air leak while driving through the forest. He decided to stop and fix it before getting too far into the wilderness while dark. After identifying the problem near the back brake chamber of his trailer, he grabbed his tools and slid under the truck to make the repair. That's when a strange feeling crept over him. I got a bad feeling, he explained, saying he heard a vocalization that didn't sound natural. It wasn't a sound I'd ever heard before.
I was having a bad feeling when I was underneath the trailer, and I was hearing a vocalization. I didn't know what exactly the sound was. It wasn't natural that I ever heard before, and I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to it at the time, but...
Looking toward the wood line, he saw shadows moving between the trees. There was still plenty of daylight left, and he initially thought it might be a black bear since he was in bear country. Uneasy but practical, Barger got back into his truck, checked the air pressure, and found that everything was good to go. The repair took less than 5 minutes, but the unsettling feeling lingered. He brushed it off and continued his journey. As he drove, everything seemed fine until he glanced into his driver's side mirror while descending a hill on the 2-lane road. Seeing no traffic, he shifted his focus to his right side mirror while climbing the next hill. That's when he saw it. A massive wolf-like head, nearly the size of his window, appeared. His window was down, and the creature was running alongside his truck at about 20 to 25 miles per hour. It was on 2 legs, stooping down, looking inside my cabin, Barger said, describing how close the Dogman was. I'm 9 feet up in my seat, and its hands were scratching at my windowsill. I could hear its claws on my door handle.
And as I started going, I was at the bottom of a hill at a snowplow turnaround. and there was a wolf head the size of my window, and my windows were down, and he was trotting along next to me, and I was about 20-25 miles an hour at that point, and he was stooping down on two legs, looking down inside of my cabin. I'm at 9 feet tall.
The sight froze him in disbelief. Time slowed down, he recalled. I felt like I was in an alternate reality because creatures like this don't exist in the reality I've always known. He admitted he had heard of Bigfoot, but emphasized that the Dogman was something entirely different. It had sharp teeth, brilliant white, with 3-inch long fangs on the top and bottom. Its ears were pointed and pure black, and its yellow eyes were sharply looking around, scanning everything, including me. Barger said that the creature's hands were human-like and about 14 inches wide. Standing stooped into his cabin, the Dogman was at least 10 feet tall. Its menacing eyes, he said, were full of intelligence. The way it looked at me, Barger explained, it was mad and determined. It wasn't making any noises, but the sneer on its face told me, I'm here to get you, and there's nothing you can do about it. Barger's mind raced as the creature ran alongside him. He thought about rolling up his window but decided against it, focusing instead on keeping his truck on the road. That's when he remembered the handgun strapped to his waist. Gripping his .45 Colt, he took aim and fired 2 shots at the Dogman.
I didn't even really think of my gun until I got this idea in my mind, what was coming across from what I thought was a werewolf, that, well, watch this, watch this. You think I can't? And then I had a gun strapped right here. It was a .45 Colt, and I just pulled it like this and shot twice, and he went down.
He instantly went down, Joe Barger recalled, describing the moment he fired at the Dogman. He explained that as the creature slid into the weeds, he was certain his aim was true. I was at almost point-blank range, so I'm pretty sure I got him through the eye orbit, he said. The creature's enormous head and entirely black appearance, save for its sharp white teeth and glowing eyes, were etched into his memory. I wasn't really panicked, but it's the scaredest I've ever been in my life. Believing the Dogman to be dead, Barger decided to turn around and confirm what had happened. About a mile up the road, he found a spot wide enough to turn his truck around. I wanted to make sure I killed it, he explained. I wanted to know more about what just occurred. But when he returned to the scene less than 5 minutes later, the creature was gone. Instead, a Jeep and 2 people were in the area where the Dogman had fallen. Concerned for their safety, Barger stopped to warn them about the danger nearby. However, the pair claimed they had been watching a couple of bears fighting. Barger didn't want to reveal what had just happened, so he left without telling them his story. Still, their mention of 2 bears stuck in his mind. He wondered if there might be more than one Dogman roaming the area. Shaken and unsure how he managed to drive back, Barger said the experience left him in shock. I shouldn't have been driving the truck in that state of mind, but I wasn't going to stay there or park anywhere near the area, he admitted. He described the encounter as the most terrifying experience he had ever endured. It was worse than any combat situation, he said. At least in combat, you know what you're dealing with. For months after the incident, Barger was haunted by nightmares. I had them on and off for 6 months to a year, he shared, though he noted that the nightmares eventually faded and no longer bother him. As time passed, Barger began to feel more at ease. He decided it was important to share his story. I'm in a lot better shape now, he said, explaining that he waited until he found the right people who would support him before going public. But as Barger tried to move on, the story took a darker turn. He alleged that the federal government was actively trying to keep the existence of the Dogman a secret. Barger explained that after recovering from his nightmares, a family member encouraged him to share his story with the public. He eventually spoke to a well-known podcaster in the cryptid community. Preferring to stay anonymous, Barger allowed the podcaster to narrate his experience. Just 3 months later, Barger said he was detained at a scale house by state police and held until federal authorities arrived. When the federal agents showed up, Barger described them as intimidating and angry. I didn't know what was going on, he said. They accused him of killing one of their assets and made it clear that they weren't happy about it. They told me, you killed one of our assets, And this is how things are going to go down.
When they first showed up, that they were very, very angry. The both of them, they were intimidating and angry, and I almost thought they were going to cuff me, but they didn't. I didn't know what was going on, and they said, "You killed one of our assets, and this is how things are going to go down from this point on." And
Barger quickly realized they were referring to the Dogman. He explained that the creature was the only thing he had killed in the last year. They said it was their property, and they were mad I killed it, he revealed. Barger believed they knew about him because of the podcast story. But the encounter didn't end there. Barger said the agents threatened him, confiscated his gun, and even shut down his bank account temporarily. "I stopped talking about it until recently," he admitted, explaining that the government likely wanted to keep the Dogman under wraps for military purposes. If they don't keep it a secret, it won't be a useful tool for them anymore. Now, Barger is sharing his story again, determined to let the public know what he experienced. The skeptics took it for just another hoax or a story to get people's attention. But get this, the Michigan Dogman has been a part of local legends for over 130 years, dating back to its first reported sighting in 1887. But where does this creature come from? True origins. The Michigan Dogman is said to have been known to Native Americans long before white settlers recorded sightings. According to legend, the beast once terrorized the Odawa tribes along the Manistee River. Some stories from these tribes described it as a skinwalker, a creature believed to transform between human and beast. The Manistee National Forest has since been referred to as the Dogman's main territory. In her 2019 book, I Know What I Saw, Linda S. Godfrey, an author and investigator based in Wisconsin, explained that many encounters describe the Dogman as moving swiftly through the forest, leaping between trees, even in freezing conditions. Godfrey noted that unusual circumstances often surrounded these sightings. She shared accounts from local historians who claimed the forest was filled with hidden Native American burial sites. These sites reportedly included the remains of hundreds of men, women, and children from the Potawatomi tribe, who were massacred in 1642 by an invading branch of the Iroquois. On top of that, Godfrey explained that some researchers believed such large-scale traumatic events left a lasting impact, not only on survivors, but on the land itself. This, she suggested, could lead to tales of haunted areas and ghostly animals. She compared this phenomenon to Gettysburg, where people have reported seeing ghostly soldiers long after the Civil War. In modern history, the most famous reported encounter with the Dogman occurred in 1887. Lumberjacks working in Wexford County claimed to have seen what they initially thought was a stray dog. They chased it until it disappeared into a hollow log. One of the men decided to poke inside the log with a stick. What happened next shocked them. The creature let out an unnatural scream and crawled out of the log, standing upright on two legs. The men found themselves face to face with what looked like a man's body and a dog's head. Terrified, the lumberjacks abandoned their camp and never returned to the area. Julie Albrecht Royce shared this encounter in her 2007 book. She explained that the lumberjack story claimed the beast appeared every 10 years. True to the legend, the next Dogman sighting in the area was reported a decade later. More encounters. In 1897, near the town of Buckley, a farmer was reportedly found dead over his plow. Surrounding his lifeless body were massive dog tracks, leading some to believe the Michigan Dogman was responsible for the attack. 10 years later, a local widow shared a chilling account. She spoke of dogs outside her home at night that made eerie, banshee-like howls, leaving her deeply unsettled. By 1917, the legend of the Dogman took another dark turn with a dark encounter that left many shocked. A local sheriff came across a scene that defied explanation. A wagon abandoned in the middle of a dirt path, its driver nowhere to be seen. While this was strange, the most scary part of the discovery, however, was the horses. Both animals lay dead on the ground as if something had terrified them beyond comprehension. Their eyes were wide open, frozen in an expression of pure terror. It was as if they had seen something so horrifying that their hearts had simply given out. What could they have seen? The sheriff, unsure of what could have caused such a bizarre sight, called for a veterinarian to examine the horses. The veterinarian arrived, carefully inspecting the lifeless animals for signs of illness, injury, or foul play. To everyone's shock, there was no clear physical cause of death. The horses showed no wounds or traces of poison. When asked what could have killed them, the vet gave a shocking explanation: fear. And the incidents did not stop there. Witness accounts of the Dogman have remained remarkably consistent over the years. Many describe the creature as standing 7 feet tall, with glowing blue or amber eyes, a human-like torso, and a horrifying scream. Michigan History Center Representative Rachel Clark noted in a 2019 interview with Michigan Public that even the circumstances of these sightings rarely varied. Clark explained that the early encounters were often by men working in the woods who found themselves face to face with the beast. Over time, the sightings shifted, but the pattern remained. Witnesses often described being alone, whether on isolated roads or in the forest when the creature appeared. She shared that people commonly reported seeing the Dogman jump in front of their vehicles or emerge from the woods, scratching at homes or tents with alarming agility. A 2016 encounter added another story to the legend. A Michigan resident known only as Brad recounted a harrowing experience while shoveling snow. He claimed he heard a loud splash in the creek about 25 yards away. When he scanned the tree line, he saw glowing yellow or amber eyes staring back at him. Brad described the creature as standing between 7 and 8 feet tall before it took off into the woods, leaping into the air. Brad reported that he didn't hear footsteps, but instead the sound of treetops clanging together, as if the creature was moving through them. He said it seemed like the Dogman was riding the treetops. These eerie encounters have continued in recent years. One witness described driving down a dark road in Waterford, Michigan, when a strange creature suddenly crossed in front of their car. They said it looked dangerous and far too large to be a regular dog or coyote. To them, it seemed like something that had crawled out of the depths of hell. As haunting as these stories are, how much of it is really true? Was the prank gone wrong? In 1987, Traverse City radio DJ Steve Cook recorded a song about the Dogman, a half-man, half-dog monster he believed he'd made up. The track, called The Legend of the Dogman, aired on the radio on April 1st as an April Fool's prank. But when Michiganders heard it, several of them called in to report encounters they'd allegedly had with the monster. In one interview, Cook recalled the eerie chain of events that began on the April Fool's morning of 1987 when his song first aired. Initially, nothing unusual happened. Cook's studio partner Jack played the song twice during their morning show, but there was no immediate reaction. About an hour later, the station's receptionist received a call from a man who sounded deeply shaken. The caller said he had heard the song and wanted to know more because he had seen the creature himself. The receptionist forwarded the call to Cook, who listened as the man shared a story that sent chills through him. The caller explained that the event had happened 50 years earlier, in 1937, while he was fishing along the Muskegon River. He described how a pack of dogs had emerged from the woods and surrounded him. To his horror, one of the dogs stood upright and looked directly at him. The memory had terrified him so much that he had never told anyone, not even his family, until he heard the song that morning. Cook was the first person he ever confided in. From that moment, things escalated. Throughout the day, more people called in, insisting that the Dogman wasn't a joke. According to Cook, reports began pouring in from others who claimed to have seen the creature. As the stories added up, Cook and his team started looking into the history behind the legend and discovered it went back far longer than he had ever imagined. After realizing this, Cook had more beans to spill about his strange mystical coincidence. I made it up completely from my own imagination as an April Fool's prank for the radio and stumbled my way to a legend that goes back all the way to Native American times, Cook told Detroit Free Press in 2011. Although he expressed his skepticism about the existence of the creature, judging by how serious and numerous the encounters ended up being, he was convinced that whoever saw it truly saw it. Cook said, "I'm tremendously skeptical, but I do believe people who think they saw something really did." But Cook did not stop there. In 2012, he told HuffPost that he had received over 500 reports of Michigan Dogman sightings. According to some people, although the song cites an 1887 incident in Wexford County, Mich, involving a run-in between lumberjacks and a dog-like creature, some of its references come from outside the state, and some were borrowed from run-ins with other strange creatures like Bigfoot, the Jersey Devil, and the Chupacabra. One of the more memorable accounts reported to Cook involved a 13-year-old girl who had never heard of the Dogman. The girl, Courtney, was sneaking a smoke behind her family's home near Reed City, Michigan, in the winter of 1993 when she noticed a glint of light coming through the planks of an abandoned barn. After watching for a few minutes, she realized a 6-foot-tall creature with the head of a dog was staring at her, and she ran away. Later, she spoke with a neighbor who claimed to have seen a buffalo-sized dog in the same barn. Yet Cook was not the only one to receive emails and messages from different people claiming to have had an encounter with the humanoid canine. Godfrey had been investigating the mystery of creatures she called upright canines since 1991. These creatures closely match the description of what many refer to as dogmen. Her journey into this strange world began while working as a reporter for the Walworth County Week. Godfrey's interest was tested when she heard rumors about a werewolf-like creature roaming an area near Elkhorn, Wisconsin. She wrote an article about what became known as the Beast of Bray Road, a creature said to lurk in the shadows of the rural landscape. The story gained significant attention, and much like Steve Cook, Godfrey quickly became a trusted person for those eager to share their encounters with similar creatures. Over time, she published several books on the topic, solidifying her reputation as an expert in the cryptozoological community. She explained that legends of the loup-garou, a French term for a werewolf, dated back to the late 1700s and early 1800s in places like Detroit. However, detailed reports of upright canines didn't appear until the 1930s. Unlike Hollywood werewolves, these creatures were described as entirely canine, with no human traits or ability to transform. Godfrey often described them as having pointed ears, sharp fangs, bushy tails, and the ability to walk on their hind legs while carrying things like roadkill or deer carcasses with their forelimbs. She noted their unique movement, walking on toe pads like regular canines, something that no human in a costume could possibly fake. While these creatures terrified witnesses, Godfrey revealed that despite receiving reports for over 20 years, no serious injuries from alleged encounters had ever been documented. Is it that the creature doesn't attack? Or is it just as elusive as Bigfoot, trying its best to avoid human contact?